夠人，咁啊開會啦，我哋。
Members is already the appointed time and have formed a quorum. Please invite the administration to join us. Present for this meeting, we have Mr. John Kwok Choi from the Financial Services and Treasury Bureau, his PAS, and also his Deputy Secretary, and also Mr. Paul Wong, PAS, from the same bureau, and Ms. Emma Wong, Senior Government Counsel from DFJ. Welcome.
今日我哋法案委員會議程嘅第一項呢就
The first thing on the agenda is to invite the administration to brief us on the work plan of the BC. The bill is very thick and we need to have proper time planning. So, administration, can you present a work plan for us, and we'll decide whether we'll go ahead as suggested. The proposed work plan is CB 11676/1314(01). Administration, can you please walk us through the paper, and the members can comment on it. DS. Thank you. If I may refer members to the paper, as the chairman said, we have close to 500 pages in the bill, and we suggest to divide the bill into 9 parts for our deliberation. So perhaps we can go to the annex directly, where we have a table setting out the 9 parts and also a proposed timing for discussion. So our preliminary assessment of the complexity and the controversy of the parts is the basis for our suggested timetable. Part 1, Constitution of the IIA, Independent Insurance Authority. This involves the functions and governance of the IIA. And it will not take over everything upon its establishment. We have another paper on the Constitution of the IIA later. And the IIA will take over its functions in phases. We expect that we will spend July for the discussion of this item. And the second part is enhancement of existing regulatory powers on insurers. The ICO now regulates the regulates insurance companies, but there are no provisions on inspection, so on and so forth. We expect that July to October would be sufficient for this part. Part 3, new regulatory powers on insurers. In fact, I have mixed up 2 and 3. Now, for appointments of controllers, we do have some requirements about them, and we will enhance the such regulatory controls in line with international standards. And part 4, a more controversial part, is licensing regime for insurance intermediaries. We plan to do it in between November and mid-December this year. And then part 5, transitional arrangements for insurance intermediaries. There will be a 3-year transitional period prior to the establishment of the IA. There would be provisional arrangements with the SROs, and the handling of outstanding cases will also be covered in this part. We expect to cover it in January next year. Part 6, disciplinary sanctions on licensed insurance intermediaries. This is about the disciplinary powers and procedures and conduct requirements. We expect to do it in mid-February to end of April. We have reserved more time for this because we believe the intermediaries have some reservations or some concerns about this. Part 7, Insurance Appeals Tribunal. The establishment, composition, and powers of the tribunal will be covered here. The IAT can also review the decisions on IA made by IA against giving a license to an intermediaries. So this will be from end of April to mid-May next year. Then Part 8, miscellaneous, power to make rules and codes, levy, secrecy provisions, immunity, and savings provisions, and also transitional arrangements. These are technical in nature. We believe that mid-May to the end of May will be sufficient. Last, consequential and technical amendments. There may be references of OIC in other pieces of legislation. We have to amend the relevant terms, and such technical amendments can be dealt with in between end of May and mid-June. And CSAs, we hope to cover all CSAs in between mid-June and end of June next year. So this is just a preliminary proposal, and it's open to members as to whether you want to accept that or not. And these are also just projections, and the timing can be reviewed from time to time. Members, in fact, only 8 major parts. Part 9, CSAs. Well, as we go through the bill clause by clause, if members have amendments, you can raise a flag. There is no need for us to wait until the end of June. It would be even more complicated if we deal with the CSAs in one go at the very end, because the bill has more than 500 pages. If in each part we have CSAs, we can consider them. Of course, at the very end, we will have an overall discussion of the proposed CSAs. Okay? Ms. Sitho, Chairman, I thank the administration for cutting up the bill into 9 parts, given that it is such a thick bill. And I'm sure we won't have very strong views about the work planned here. While we are going to go through the bill part by part, now we are working on the policies. And part 1, for instance, is functions and governance of IIA. And I think when we go to clause-by-clause scrutiny, we will follow the order of the clauses, right? We will not carve up the bill anymore. And after we have discussed the whole bill, whether we have a consensus or difference in views or not, it doesn't matter. When we go to a clause-by-clause scrutiny, we must follow the original order of the clauses. Just want the administration to confirm this. Yes. Whether we're going to jump from one section to another. Not necessarily, but the bill is rather long. I'd like to see whether it is acceptable to members. After we have completed the discussion of one part, we go to the clause-by-clause scrutiny of that part. Because if we leave it to the very end, because there are 490 odd pages, I'm afraid we might forget some of the parts covered earlier, because we talk about a stretch of over 6 months. Now, if we have completed part 1, and when we go to part 4 or part 5, where there is references to part 1, of course, we can go back to part 1 for cross-references and interaction. And we can also provide summary of concerns of members to avoid any oversight or omission. So, to be more focused, can we go through one part of a particular policy and then we proceed to by clause scrutiny? Ms. Ho. I don't want to do it this way, Chairman. Now, for other bills where we do not carve it up into so many parts, that is okay. But for this one, I don't want to jump from one part to another. For instance, clauses 1 to 5 and then 9 and clause 96. Of course, the DOJ has as logic in drafting the bill in this way. Their drafting method may not have the same logic as the administration. We have been doing it all along in this way, and I think there must be a reason for us to scrutinize bills in this way. I don't want to break the convention. Now, if we do as the administration suggested, it's easy to have oversight because the clauses may be related. So I suggest that we go through the policies first, and please, may I invite the Bureau to assist us, or the Secretariat to assist. You can use a color code to annotate the different clauses so that we know which part they belong to, so that we will not overlook the causal relationship or the order of the clauses. Because if we do it as the administration suggested, we may miss the interrelationship between different clauses.
I also agree that the bill is a very long one. If we do not break it up into separate parts, if the size of the bill is too large, we may not be able to, work so smoothly. And on the other hand, as Ms. Ho said, if we chop up the bill into separate components, we may easily miss, certain issues. Before we So I think we should first focus on the policy, the part 1, the functions and governance, followed by how to enhance regulatory powers and so on. I agree that we should do it that way when we discuss the policies, but I don't think we should do the clause by clause as proposed by the administration. Of course, I respect members' views. In dealing with bills that both approaches have been used, sometimes we first discuss the policies before we go to the clause by clause, and sometimes we would finish our discussion on the policies before we go to the clause by clause. So we respect members' views. And also, I think the bill, there will not be too much need for us to jump, from one part of the bill to the other, because the way we've arranged the different parts will enable members to discuss the bill in an orderly manner. So I don't think what you suggest is not in conflict with what Ms. Ho suggests. Mr. Sin Chung Kai, I agree that when members ask questions, we will ask questions in relation to the different parts, so that I think members can ask simple questions. Members can also ask in-depth questions But after we finish asking questions on the 8 parts, I think the chairman should lead us to go through the clause by clause from start to finish. There is an advantage in this approach because when we ask questions, it may involve policy issues, and the government as a result may respond by proposing some amendments. After you have all these amendments ready, and when we come to the clause by clause, we can also look them together. So if we want to save time, I think we can take this approach. I don't think we should finish our discussion on one part of the policy and then go straight to the clause by clause. You said that both approaches have been used before, but of all the bills committees which I have participated, normally we would first ask all the questions we need to ask before we go to the clause by clause. Even for a large or long bill, that was the approach taken. Regarding the timetable in the third column, I think this is only a proposed timetable. If members, may take longer or to ask the questions for another part, we may not need so long to ask the questions. So the third column is only for reference. So I think we should first ask questions in relation to the policies governing the separate parts before we go to the clause by clause. I think Mr. Sin made a very good question, made a very good suggestion. So I don't think we should follow a rigid timetable. So the timetable here is only for reference. Mr. Yu Si Wing, thank you. I think dividing the bill into different parts so that we can discuss the different parts and then go to the clause by clause, I think we can consider this approach, adopting this approach. The bill is so long. When we come to a certain part of the bill, and after our discussion, the government may need to go back and amend certain wordings in a particular part or section. So after more than half a year, members may ask questions about what was covered more than 6 months ago, and some members might not have participated in the earlier discussions. So I don't think we'll be able to function effectively because we may repeat our questions, and it will take a long time. So I think the best approach is that after we've discussed, finished a discussion on a particular part, we will go to the clause by clause, and then towards the end, we will go through the whole bill from start to finish, at which time members may ask other questions, and we may, and then we can say that we've covered it already, and if there need be, we can amend some of the wordings. So I think we should still do it, but at the end, well, for those parts which don't link up, we can link them up. Okay, I think members already expressed their views. Mr. Wong Kit Kok Kin. I'm inclined to agree with Ms. Sit Ho, because this is indeed a very long bill. If in the clause by clause, if we scrutinize different portions of the bill, we may miss certain parts which are interrelated, or we may omit certain parts which are interrelated. Regarding Mr. Yu's suggestion, that could mean that we will be, doing the clause by clause twice. This is a long bill, and if we have to, it may be difficult for us to go through the clause by clause twice. I don't think there's any objection to discuss the policies by dividing the bill into separate parts. But when we go to the clause by clause, if the Secretariat could prepare some remarks and reminders for us, then at the clause by clause stage, there wouldn't be any problems, because indeed the bill is too long. Deputy Chairman, I agree with Mr. Sito. I think we should discuss all the policies first before we go to the clause by clause. Chairman, Now that we have resolved this matter, I would like to ask the Permanent Secretary to tell us the timetable. So after this is endorsed in June 2015, and then we will set up the provisional insurance commissioners. And when will we be able to migrate to the IAA? Chairman, according to the timetable proposed in this paper, if indeed we are able to enact the legislation by the end of June 2015, we expect that it will take about a year for us to make the necessary preparation. Taking reference of some of the newly established regulatory, bodies, for example, the competition committee. So during that year, we need to appoint the directors to the IIA and appoint staff. So actually the next paper will give members more details. That is, during the first stage, the IA will take up the duties of the Office of the Commissioner Insurance, and that will take about 8 months to a year. During the second stage, we will introduce the licensing regime for insurance intermediaries. Before that, the Office of the Insurance Commissioner would need to consult the trade before it can issue the guidelines. So we expect that if by the end of June 2015 we enact the legislation, 12 months later the Office of the Insurance Commissioner can be taken over by the IA, after which we will have the new licensing regime for intermediaries. So I think this is a conservative estimate. If we could expedite things, if the consultation with the trade were efficient, then the timetable could be advanced. But the conservative estimate is that this would be the timetable. Beg your pardon, if I may repeat. When the bill was enacted in June 2015, so it will be enacted at the end of June, and in July, August we'll be able to appoint set up the IA, and then we need to employ people to take up the duties of the OCI. Basically, they will be responsible for anti-money laundering and the regulation insurance companies. At the same time, they will need to prepare subsidiary legislation in relation to the regulation of insurance intermediaries and the licensing regimes. And then 12 months later, it would have completed all the work. That will take us to the middle of 2017, and then the IA will start functioning. Will be fully operational. Any other questions? Permanent Secretary, I think. Could you go back and based on Ms. Sitho and other members' suggestions, could you adjust the timetable accordingly? So the approach we'll take is that we will first comprehensively discuss the policy issues relating to the setting up of the IIA, and then we're going to divide it into 8 parts. So we'll discuss the policies by dividing them into 8 parts, or what? Or clause by clause. Chairman, if I understand it, members correctly, the majority view is that, like what is said in the table, we will discuss the policies in relation to the 8 parts in this table, but there won't be any clause by clause scrutiny of the bill. It's only towards the end that we will conduct the whole clause by clause scrutiny of the bill. All right? Is that the approach that members agree to adopt? If so, then we will do so accordingly. We'll divide the policy issues into 8 parts. After we finish with our discussion of the policies, then we will, scrutinize. We'll have the clause-by-clause scrutiny of the bill at one go. Next, we now move on to the next paper. And that is I think this part has been covered, the views of deputations, and I think we've covered this part already. The administration has also provided us with another paper, 1676-1314-02. We just finished discussing paper number 1. We are now on to paper number 2. Thank you. In our early discussion, members agreed that we should discuss the policy issues by breaking up the bill into several parts. The first part we need to discuss is the composition of the IIA. And this would be the new part 1A and the new schedules 1B, C, and D. So in respect of the policy objectives for these provisions, I will briefly walk members through the sections. Regarding the policy objective, I think the IIA should one of the most important functions is to ensure the interests of the policyholders. In Hong Kong, we have several million policyholders. So the insurance industry in Hong Kong is very mature. In relation to Section 948A, which is about the establishment of the IA, which states that the IA is going to be a body corporate which is independent of the government, and this is in compliance with the international requirement that the insurance regulator should be independent of the government. When the IA is established, it will need to change its name, and that's not so complicated. This is simply to enable the IA to discharge its functions as a body corporate, such as hiring employees, leasing premises, and so on. This is a transitional arrangement. Hopefully this will enable the IA to be set up and discharge its statutory duties as soon as possible.
Para 6 is about the composition of the IIA, and clause or section 4AA is relevant. Under this clause, the IIA should comprise a chairperson who is a non-executive director, a chief executive officer who is an executive director, and not less than 6 directors. So there should be at least 8 members in the IIA, and all directors are appointed by CE, and the majority of the IA must be non-executive directors. 2 members of the IIA should possess expertise relevant to the industry. This is in response to the calls from the industry that there should be representatives from the trade in the IIA. And we also specify that other members of the IAA should be persons with knowledge in actuarial science, accountancy, laws, and so forth. And per 7 is about the administrative arrangements. These are very technical in nature. And other matter relates to the policy is the functions and powers of the IIA. It is in fact put in the schedule. The first function of the IIA is to for the sustainable market development of the insurance industry and to protect the interests of policyholders and as well as potential policyholders. And because of a new licensing regime, there will be a licensing regime for intermediaries. And this will replace the current function of promoting self-regulation. And also to make appropriate policies for the sustainable market development of the insurance industry and promoting the competitiveness of the insurance industry in the global insurance market. And therefore, there should be no over-regulation as demanded by the industry, and there should be sustainable market development of this industry. Regarding other functions and powers, the IIA has the power to issue directions for the industry. May I jump to paragraph 12? It's about the industry advisory committees. Currently, there is already one, but under the new system, there will be two statutory IACs. One is related to life insurance, the other related to general insurance. So there will be two IACs, and the IIA may set up more advisory committees on specific matters to consult the public as well as the industry. Page 4, D, delegation of functions. The IIA may delegate its inspection and investigation powers to the Hong Kong MA. And this power of the Hong Kong MA would only be applicable in investigating the conduct of banks in carrying out insurance business. And then the IIA may also charge a levy, and up to the 5th year, there can be a levy of 0.1% on insurance premiums, capped at $100 for life policies and $5,000 for non-life policies. And the IA also has to prepare budgets for the scrutiny of the FS or for approval of the FS, and accounts should not be submitted to the LegCo for its scrutiny. So these are usual regulations for statutory regulatory bodies. So these are the main parts in this section. I welcome questions from members. Mr. Sin Chung Kai raised his hand. Any more questions from members on this paper, please? Mr. Kotwai-Kerr. Thank you, Chairman. On the composition of the IIA, it was discussed in this BC a number of times. The two members of the IIA that have industry expertise. I'd like to know whether this should be represented by means of a percentage instead of an actual number. Yes, we have no intention to change this because a member of a regulator should appoint the most appropriate and the most suitable persons. We must have flexibility. In the light of market development, from time to time we should be able to appoint experts into the IIA. We saw no reason why we have to specify a certain percentage of members from the industry in the IIA. In fact, it is a regulatory body instead of a body for the industry. I know that the industry have strong aspirations that the IIA should have an understanding of the industry, but that doesn't mean that there must be the influence of the industry in its highest decision-making authority, because this will be an influence. This is different from the demand that the regulator must have understanding of the industry. Because we have IACs, there are other ways to consult the industry. And it is specified in the law that before the IIA promulgates a new regulatory requirements, it has to consult the industry first. So to ensure that the authority understands the industry, it can be achieved through our proposal. If we set a certain percentage of members of the industry and the board, that will really influence the impartiality of the authority. Any follow-up, Mr. Kotwaker? Well, in my meeting with the DS, I reflected some views. Perhaps he was still thinking of those requirements. No, here it says that there should be not less than 2 members that have expertise relevant to regulatory functions. And then the chairman and also the CEO cannot be changed. And there are only 2 that have expertise relevant to the regulatory functions. There is only 1/3. That is 2 out of 6. Why don't you write down a certain percentage? Because people are worried that there may be more members that are not relevant to the industry, and that would dilute the proportion of the members that have that have expertise in this industry. We do not have a cap to the size of the IIA, of the number of directors. We say that there should be at least 2 directors with expertise relevant to the industry. So, as I said, this proposal will allow the administration to appoint the most suitable persons to the board. It says at least 2 non-executive directors with knowledge of and experience in the insurance industry. At least 2. There is the 2 words, at least. That means it can be more than 2. That's correct. If you adopt a percentage, you think that it is not appropriate. But how can you allay the concerns of raised by Mr. Kotwaker? Right. The authority will have the CEO, which is an executive director, and together there will at least be 8 directors, with 2 being official members and 6 non-official members, if I may put it this way. Can you assure us or can you tell us what will be the maximum number in the authority, so that we can be assured that the representative from the trade would not be too over-diluted? This so-called dilution, I beg to differ from this assumption or presumption. We must appoint the most suitable persons to be directors of the IIA. We believe it will be established in 2016-17. And what regulatory matters do we have to tackle? The world is going towards the direction of risk-based capital framework, and we have to set up a fund to protect investors' interests, and the fund will be managed by the IIA. And because of the financial tsunami in 2008, we have to see how groups with global insurance business will not let its risks in other business to affect its very stable business in Hong Kong. So this will be a major task of the IIA. We intend to appoint people with such regulatory knowledge, and these people will include those from the industry. For instance, we must have actuaries. We must have accountancies who know the industry well. So these are people from the industry we need. So this will be a risk-based capital framework. We must consult the industry and also the two IACs. The two IACs will comprise mainly members from the industry, so there is no question of diluting the representativeness of the industry. Mr. Sin Chung Kai, you were not in the room. Yes, I was at the Bills Committee on Competition just now. Yes, we're all busy. All right, I'd like to ask a question about the composition of the board. I understand that there is the minimum number of directors specified, but not the maximum. While the administration said that the workload will not be too heavy, but you consider the provisions for the SFC and also MPFA. Would you consider setting a maximum number? Now, there will be a non-executive director, a chief executive director, and not less than 6 directors. This is understandable, but why don't you set a maximum for the number of directors? And for the two IACs, this is strange. Why do you have to include the chairperson and CEO of the IIA? Why? Would it be better if the IIA step back a bit, because the chairperson of the IIA will be members of the two ICAs under your proposal? Would it be better for the chairman to be some distance apart from the IAC? So what do you mean by stepping back a little bit? All right, first, please answer me the question. Answer the question regarding the maximum number of the IIA. Now, even for the MPFA has got advisory committees on policies. Chairman, you were also once chairman of an advisory committee of the MPFA. Chairman of the MPFA isn't a member of the relevant advisory committee. Anyway, it's not specified in the law. The CEO will be there. No, I'm talking about the chairperson.
The chairman can also attend the meeting, but now the bill requires that the chairman must be on the IAC. Chairman, let me first of all talk about the composition of the board. I already answered the question earlier. We want to have the flexibility so that we can appoint the most suitable candidates to deal with the work which needs to be done by the regulatory body. As I said, at the time when the IIA is set up, it may need to deal with the setting up of a compensation fund and risk-based capital framework requirements. The market is changing all the time. We don't want to have any impose a restriction here, and also having consider similar regulators overseas, and also the composition of local regulatory bodies. There is no such ceiling. We therefore believe that to rigidly, so we wonder what is the purpose of setting a ceiling rigidly, because there's no there's no justification for that. In other regulatory bodies, is it the case that they also have a minimum but not a maximum number of directors? For the MPFA and so on, they do have a minimum but not a maximum. For the SFC, they don't even have any any requirement that someone with expertise in the industry be appointed to the board. For the MPFA, again, there is no one who is regulated by the MPFA to be appointed to the board, to sit on the board. No, I'm talking about the total number. Please do not confuse Mr. Kwok's question with mine. I wasn't asking about representatives from the industry. I'm talking about the composition of the board. Well, I think there are different approaches in different legislation. Could you give an example where such bodies have no ceiling? For the SFC, there is no ceiling on the number. As for the MPFA, it is stipulated that there should at least be 10 directors. Again, there is no ceiling. So there is a minimum but not a maximum number. The regulators in the UK, again, they do not have a ceiling on number of directors. All right, also the question regarding the IAC. Perhaps, well, we would like the chairman and the CEO to be sitting on IAC because we attach a lot of importance to this IAC, which is a platform for which the IA can communicate with the industry. So therefore, we are now proposing that the chairman and the CEO should also be sitting on the board. If members would like to have more flexibility and suggest that we shouldn't require the chairman to sit on the IAC as well, we are prepared to go back and consider your proposal. Is it Mr. Sin's suggestion that we should only require the CEO to sit on the IAC and not the chairman? Well, actually, I was asking what was your initial consideration. And also even locally, have you made reference of similar organizations like the SFC and the MPFA or other financial regulatory bodies? They are governed by law, and under such laws, advisory committees are set up. According to my recollection, there is no such advisory committee which requires the chairman to be a member. At important moments, the chairman may attend the meetings of such committees, and at any time as a chairman of the regulatory body to attend the meeting of the advisory committee is acceptable. But the point is that if you originally require the chairman to attend the meetings of the IAC, then it's a different story. And then his role would also be different. Because the chairman of the IA may not be the chairman of the IAC. And if he is not, if there are things which the IAC has reached an agreement and the chairman is in the minority, then would that put him into a very embarrassing position? Because eventually the decision is made by the authority itself. Permanent Secretary, perhaps you can go back and prepare a table comparing the statutory requirements governing the different regulatory bodies. We're prepared to go back and think about it. Our original thinking was that we attach a lot of importance to the work of the two advisory committees, and therefore we proposed that the chairman and the CEO should be sitting on those advisory committees to listen to the views of its members. But I note Mr. Sin's concern, and I will certainly go back and think about this further. Well, you have two advisory committees, one for life insurance, the other for non-life insurance products. The bill stipulates that its members should include the chairman and the CEO of the IIA, and you also say that there should be no more than 2 executive directors. Of course, the CEO obviously is one of the executive directors. The chairman may not be an executive director. He is definitely a non-executive chairman. So, in other words, it says include. It doesn't mean that the IA chairman must also chair the meetings of the IAC chairman. The bill doesn't say that the IIA chairman would have to be the chairman of the IAC as well. He's only a member. I think that's the same for other, institutions. I mean, the chairman of the board can sit on the advisory committee, but not as but he doesn't attend the advisory committee meeting as his chairman. Is that clear, Mr. Sin? Of course, I know that. That's not so complicated, but you have to consider, first of all, that the chairman manages the board or the authority. And on the board, of course, the chairman has to attend other meetings. And if the chairman has to attend the IAC meetings, don't imagine that you can easily find a candidate. You look at the bottom committees. It's not the case that the members are lazy, but sometimes they're so they may be overcommitted and they don't have the time. For the CEO, there's no problem because he would need to be. Even if he has an appointment, then he certainly has to give priority to the work of the IAC. But then the chairman is a non-executive director. He may have other duties and work. He's not a paid an executive chairman. Chairman, if you have time, if you allow me to ask another question. And I mean, Ms. Sito has also put up her hand. So 3 members. We have 3 other members. Why don't we let them ask the questions first before we come back to you, Mr. Sin? Mr. Kwok Wai Keung. I don't want to, dwell too much on the details. We heard just now that there should at least be 6 directors and at least 2 others. If you express it in percentage terms, sometimes it may not so desirable. The important thing is that you should give a clear undertaking that in future, if the size of the board were to be increased, then the 2 persons with the expertise in the industry, the number should also be increased correspondingly. So could we put this on record, and the government should give this undertaking, because that can resolve the problem I raised just now. And secondly, regarding the functions of the IIA, basically you want to collect a levy from the policyholders. That's why you're saying that its function is to protect the policyholders, and for the insurance intermediaries, you require them to follow guidelines and that they should be subject to regulation. What I want to say is that some agents which had gone into suffered some difficulties. Right now, the OCI is a government department. I'm worried that after you've set up the IAA, which is independent of the government, and should there be a major controversy, I don't know to whom we should ask for help, because the functions of the IIC doesn't include the protection of the rights of the practitioners, although you charge them a license fee. Could you also add this into the bill? Otherwise, those from the industry wouldn't know whom to go to, if they need assistance. So otherwise, they'll become helpless. Mr. Kwok, I would like to ask another question. If something goes wrong, what exactly do you mean? What kind of problems are you referring to? When you have an insurance company and its agents are involved in a labor dispute, in our opinion, but they're not employed. They don't have an employment relationship. Many agents are self-employed, but in fact they work for the company. They're not proprietors. In the past, I won't name any companies, when a problem has occurred, and if you do not have an organization which has the clout to deal with these large multinational insurance companies and rely only on the unions, trade unions, then there's not much we can do. If they ignore us, then the problem will not be resolved, and then the practitioners may need to take to the street. Permanent Secretary. I'm sure you've heard Mr. Kwok's concern. If they go to the department, they cannot resolve the problem. So whether or not this is a commercial dispute or a labor dispute, sometimes it's difficult to tell. In the past, the OCI is a government department which can help, but what about the IIA in future? Two questions. I think Mr. Kwok had expressed his concern about the members of the board who should have expertise. I think the authorities will appoint the most suitable candidates to sit on the board of the IIA. In dealing with regulatory matters governing the industry, we need someone with experience and expertise, in the industry. I'm sure Mr. Kwok may not be satisfied with my answer. The insurance regulator, the IIA, doesn't have the function to protect the interests of those who are subject to regulation, because there is a conflict of interest there. Recently, the disputes referred to by Mr. Kwok, at the moment the OCI doesn't have a role to play, but then it does, try to mediate. The recent example, I won't name many names here, and we can see that the both parties have eventually arrive at a consensus. I believe that under the IIA, I'm sure it can, perform a similar function. The IIA, after it has been set up, it will have certain requirements regarding the corporate governance of the insurance companies. The ultimate purpose of such corporate governance requirement is that through their products and service, and the service provided by the intermediaries to its clients would be fair. This means that regarding the corporate governance requirements for insurance companies, it would require them to be fair in dealing with the insurance intermediaries. Chairman, the IIA, first of all, need to promote the overall stability of the insurance industry. I don't know what you mean by overall stability, but my interpretation is that the practitioners certainly help to maintain stability of the industry. If there are practitioners, there will be stability. If there are nobody in the industry, working in the industry, you don't have any stability. And sometimes you may have cases where the policyholders are left in a limbo. So I think the question is that you are saying that the IIA regulate the practitioners, but it shouldn't be looking after the interests. You regulate the service they provide to the public, but you have to protect them. These practitioners who work for the large insurance companies, you have to protect their interests, ensure they get proper fair treatment. If they cannot get a fair treatment, how can they provide good service to members of the public? In the final analysis, if you protect the interests as well, it is conducive to improving the quality of service of the insurance industry and maintain stability. But you are still unwilling to tell us whether or not the IIA will will protect the interests. And regarding the governance, the corporate governance requirements for insurance companies, I think you're being very, very lenient. I mean, very often they would simply try to evade any issues you may raise with them.
We talked about stability. Now, that means insurance companies must be stable. There should be sufficient capital to pay claims to policyholders, and that the public can have confidence in the policy industry as a whole. But that doesn't mean that we're going to protect the interests of insurance intermediaries. I'm sorry, Mr. Kwok, I'm afraid This is not really one of the statutory functions of the IIA. I can only say that should there be such incidents, I'm sure the IIA will mediate, and there would be something from the IIA to ensure that insurance companies will treat intermediaries in a fair and just manner. Mr. Kwok. I think the administration's position is clear. Protection of the interests of intermediaries is not one of their concerns. Regarding the rights and interests of intermediaries, I think you should pursue it under the company's ordinance. To some extent, these intermediaries are employed. In fact, are micro companies. So there is a relationship between micro companies run by these intermediaries and the insurance companies. So I share your concern, but whether it can be addressed under this bill, I'm not certain. Perhaps you should pursue in another channel. Mr. Yu Siwing, it's about the functions of the tribunal. It would accept complaints and mediate and impose sanctions. Mr. Yu, I'm afraid we are not up to that part yet. But there are two advisory committees. When we talk about the advisory committees, I'm asking whether we can have one more committee. I'm asking whether we can have one more committee. I think there is a committee under the tribunal, but not of the same nature. Perhaps the DS can reply first. Please tell us the functions and powers of the tribunal. I understand Mr. Yu's concern. The tribunal is an independent quasi-judicial body. It is independent of the IIA. It will be chaired by someone who is eligible to be appointed as a High Court judge. We will appoint a panel of members to form a tribunal. Whenever there is the need to consider decisions by the IIA, the tribunal will be formed by the chairman and 2 members from that panel. If the IIA issues its decision on regulation of intermediaries, I think Mr. Yu is asking for a committee to consider the decisions first. Now, that means this committee is the decision-making body, not the IIA. If the decision of the IIA can be examined by this committee first. Well, in our regulatory framework for financial matters, for financial services, we have never had such a mechanism. This will also affect the efficiency. Every year, we have 1,400 odd complaints against insurance companies and intermediaries in the past 3 years. So we have to investigate. The decision to investigate an intermediary and the decision to impose sanction, if all such decisions have to go to such a committee first, it is very cumbersome and will also undermine the regulatory power of the IIA. And how should that committee be formed? There are a number of issues that have to be resolved first. And we have to understand that the purpose of establishing an IIA is to ensure that it is independent of the industry and can consider matters in a fair and impartial manner. So it's really necessary to set up another committee to review or examine the decision of the IIA is a duplication of functions. Now, if there are complaints, it may come from a consumer or some company from the same industry. The complaint may be against the conduct of certain persons. Now, the industry has a consumer relations committee to see whether the complainant is in the wrong, and to see whether mediation can be used to resolve the matter. So I think it is good to have a committee to mediate. Now, in fact, the members should not be mainly from the industry. Most of it should be non-industry members, although there should be some because they have a better understanding of the tax way of doing things in the industry. So it is something, it should be a pro bono body. It is independent of the IIA, and therefore it should have greater credibility. It can consider wider issues to protect consumers' interests. I hope that before going to the tribunal, there can be such a setup in the IIA. This is not really a duplication of functions. Where you have 1,400 cases per year, this is quite a considerable number. You say that IIA has the mechanism to see whether a certain party has breached the regulations, but perhaps these people may be just going through the motions. They just investigate and use experience and say that in the previous case, this agent contravened this and that, and this time he must be in the wrong. This is unfair to the agent. So it is better to have a committee. I think it would be a better way of doing things. Let me explain the procedures to you to let Mr. Yu understand what had happened at each step. First, complaints. Complaints can be in two aspects. If it is against an agent, to see whether there is any breach of conduct, any misconduct, and whether he is a fit and proper person. We have laid down the professional qualifications and educational qualifications in the law. And it's not that as soon as a complaint is received, the IA will certainly investigate. It is specified in the law that the IA must have reasonable doubt that a contravention has taken place. If there is no prima facie evidence, then no investigation will be done. If there are frivolous accusations, well, they will be screened out at this stage. There won't be any investigation. If there is prima facie evidence that there has been misconduct, then investigation will take place. And the complainant or the intermediary that is the subject of a complaint will be invited to give representation. He'll be given a fair chance before a conclusion is made. The question is, who will hear his representation? Well, there must be an investigation first, and it is a professional judgment. The investigation findings will be given to another group of staff in the IIA responsible for imposing sanctions. They will decide whether sanctions should be imposed. Perhaps it's just a technical, a minor breach, then sanction is not needed, or perhaps reprimand is needed. If sanctions have to be imposed, then the proposed sanction will be relate to the complainee. When the complainee is made aware of that, he can make another representation. He can disagree or say that the penalty is too high, too heavy. And after that, the IIA will make a final decision. The decision will also be sent to the complainee, and he can make an appeal within 28 days. The appeals panel will then convene a meeting to review the decision by the IIA. For a serious misconduct or for a serious breach, in fact, a mediation can happen before investigation, or if there is no prima facie evidence, there won't be any investigation at all, any follow-up. So the whole everything happens within the IIA. First, there is a complaint to the IIA. The IIA will investigate. Another group of staff or the chairperson of the IIA will consider the investigation findings and decide whether there should be sanctions. There is no objective body to deal with this issue. I'm afraid the IIA will say for sure that this person is in the wrong due to his track record, so on and so forth, because everything takes place inside the IIA. Why do we need a committee? Well, whether the committee will go through each and every step of the flow you told us. It is about whether there can be an objective assessment, or whether an appeal can be dealt with objectively. This will let the industry know that it is fair. Mr. Yu, I think the DS has really got your point. So you're saying the inspection, investigation, and appeal and everything is being done by the IIA, and Mr. Yu would like to have an appeal mechanism so that even before a penalty is really imposed, there can be avoidance of misjustice. Well, I said an appeal can be lodged within 28 days. That was a mistake. It should be 21 days. Now we are assuming, I think you're assuming, that the IIA or the regulator will always assume that the person being complained against is in the wrong. In fact, our investigation is facts-based. We ask IIA to do this because we want somebody which has no vested interest in the industry. Perhaps it is already a major improvement or progress from what it is now, because the public do not trust a regulatory body that comprises entirely people from the industry. There is no credibility, and IIA will have laymen to make the system more neutral.
So we are not going to that extreme. That is, we now have people who don't have any vested interest would deal with these complaints fairly. So on that premise, do we need to set up yet another committee? We really believe that that's really not necessary. You said that when the IIA, if it makes the right decision regarding sanctions, I think one would need to, look at this record. For a regulator to be able to obtain credibility, it will depend on the quality of the decisions it makes. If the quality of its judgment is seen to be fair, then should we all still assume that it will definitely impose very draconian sanctions? Shouldn't we give the IA some time so that it can build up a track record? Mr. Yeo. You may not be satisfied with that answer, and I'm sure the Bureau will also, take note of the questions raised by Mr. Yeo. I don't think we can really, come to any consensus here. I don't think the Bureau will be able to satisfy your request. So why don't we go to Ms. Sit-Ho, who's been waiting for a long time already. I think I'd also like to talk about the part regarding functions and authorities. I understand that you've added 4 AA2 all the way to EE. There are 5 items here. First of all, I'd like to confirm whether or not these 5 items are the functions of the IIA. My question is in respect of the 5th column. That is, adopt appropriate measures to, in respect of the insurance industry, help the FS maintain financial stability. What measures are these when you have financial? What do you mean by financial stability? Is it that when we have a financial crisis, we need to, save the industries, including the insurance industry? So, what is the relationship between the IA and the FS? In the bill, do you have other provisions defining clearly the respective powers and functions of the FS and the IIA? Right now, we have the OCI. So, could the government give us a comparative table that is outlining the relationship between the OCI and the administration, namely its relationship with the FS and the FSTB? In respect of the respective authorities and so on, and also and how does it compare with the IA to be set up in the future? We're talking about a statutory body here. If we say we want the industry to exercise self-regulation and that there shouldn't be so much government regulation, so that you have representatives of the public and the industry sitting on that body rather than for the government to regulate. I'm sure it is effective to set up such a statutory body, but it will really depend on how much powers you give to this statutory body so that it can act independently. You say the IA would need to adopt appropriate measures to maintain financial stability and assist the FS in doing that. What do you mean by the word assist here? Does it mean that the IA must, obey or listen to the FS, or is it that they can choose to ignore whatever, the FS say? So I hope you can give us more details here as to what exactly is your intention, and also have you reflected that clearly in the bill. Otherwise, it's like a white paper. Different people would come up with different ideas, and 17 years later, they now come up with this white paper. So I hope the administration could give us the relevant information. Permanent Secretary? Yes, certainly we can do that. But can I also quickly respond? What I'd like to say is that the IIA is independent of the government. The OCI is now a government department. So we can certainly provide information in writing for Ms. Ho to explain this point. And the function proposed to the IA is also found in respect of other similar bodies. During the financial crisis, for example, we needed to come up with very speedy measures to maintain the stability of the industry. That is, ensure that certain financial institutions will not collapse. So these are such examples. We certainly provide more written information for members. Another point I'm not very clear. is that here it doesn't say the FS will have a direct relationship with the industry. It only said that the IA should assist the FS. The FS has a statutory duty to maintain the stability of the financial system in Hong Kong. So the word assist means that through the IIA, he would impose certain regulatory requirements, but the FS will not be able to directly require the industry to do anything. I'm holding on to this table. When we come to 4H, when the FS put forward, when the FS demands, I will provide information to the FS, including the rationale for adopting certain policies and principles. So in other words, I would need to offer an explanation to the FS. And although you are not saying that it must listen to the demand of the FS, but eventually it will need to be accountable to the FS. If you have a senior officer requiring to explain your policies, of course, you may then adjust your policies accordingly. So what I'd like to know is that for the IIA, what other working relationship does it have with the FS? I've identified 2 provisions so far. Are there other areas where the provision where we need to clearly define the relationship between the officials and the IIA? And also in 4A2, you've added the section EE. I hope the government can explain this by way of a paper, because normally these are routine provisions, they are just formalities. However, when you have a financial crisis, what exactly do you mean by adopting appropriate measures to maintain financial stability? What powers would you have in this regard? Or was it like back in 1998, since you are sitting on such a large amount of public funds, or you have such a large liability to make compensation? So the IIA does it mean the IA will have to listen to the officials to direct what it has to do, or does the IA still have the independence? And it's not the case that in the case of an emergency, the IA will let the government dictate what it must do. All right, could you please give us a paper? There's a lot of leeway here. That is, what is going to be the relationship between the FS and the IIA, including the working relationship between the two, especially in case of an emergency scenario. Like Ms. Ho said, during normal times, this wouldn't be a problem. But if there are exceptional circumstances, does it mean that the FS can direct what the IA should do, and that the IA must comply? So I hope the Bureau can give us a paper to explain those points. Next, Mr. Chen Kim-bo. Thank you. Mr. Kwok Wai Keung already asked the same question. The members of our industry are very concerned that there should be at least 20% of the directors should come from the industry. If it is 2 out of 8, it's close. But even if you don't stipulate it clearly, at least you should not dilute the representation of those of the industry. We're not trying to fight for any benefits or interests. We just want to ensure that there will be sufficient number of people on the board who have an understanding about the industry in terms of the development of the industry and in terms of regulation. I don't think that we have any other ulterior motive. Even the 20%, if 20% of the board members come from the industry, they wouldn't still be able to control the board. So I think this is still a pending issue. I hope the government will consider this further. And secondly, Mr. Kwok Wai Keung asked what's going to happen to the agents in future. If we look at 4A C. Ensure that the practitioners adopt proper conduct, and so I think the intermediaries is a major pillar of the insurance industry. The so-called good practices and proper codes of conduct, I'm sure they include, the good code of practice so I think Mr. Kwok will not need to worry here, because if you make life so difficult for the agents, this will certainly affect the insurance company. So based on this provision, I think we can the petitioners can ask the IA for assistance. Thirdly, there are several major concerns, but I won't go touch on those yet for the time being. But Mrs. Yu Si-wing already talked about complaint. How can we ensure that put the intermediaries at ease? You've not given him a very good answer, but doesn't mean that we accept your explanation. Please understand that, I mean, I think you explained some of the issues raised last week. For example, there were doubts that there are many things that I cannot do, and there were also concerns about cost. Most important is about the intermediaries. Let us forget this is not a new organization. This is an organization which has been, established for more than 10 years, and there are self-regulatory organizations which have been in place, and you have people who are not from the industry sitting on those committees. For example, the Committee on Sanctions have representatives from the Consumer Council, lawyers and accountants. There are only 2 from the industry, and it's been working well. So if in future, if you make the IA can solely make decision, then they will not have the confidence. I think we need to resolve all these big issues. Otherwise, we cannot really move forward. So you will spend more time to consider. I mean, our bottom line is that you should give us the confidence. How can you ensure that the practitioners can have the confidence? So if you come up with a good solution that can put the heart of the practitioners at ease, and then I would be satisfied. Now there is already an established system in place, and now you are asking an official to take over. You must understand why they are concerned. So how can you really put the heart at ease? We're talking about more than 80,000 intermediaries. If the policy of the government affect so many people, that you would need to conduct consultation. Of course, you've done many consultations, but you must understand that we don't have any malicious intentions. We're not asking you to protect the intermediaries. We just want to ensure that there will be fair judgments. For example, in the case of investigation, will you have a committee before the investigation, or will you set up a committee before things are taken to the tribunal? Anyway, please come up with a solution to this to address the intermediaries' concern. If you don't have an answer for us, then we will further challenge you on the point regarding the tribunal.
即正如副主席提幾個問題咧。
Yes. The issues you mentioned, well, we have discussed with the industry for a long time. Well, I promise to think about it to see whether there are ways to allay the concerns of the industry. I do understand that moving from the current regime to a new one may bring about worries. This is perfectly understandable. However, the market has to progress, and this is a new system. We do respect the aspirations of 80,000 in the industry. However, we are we have the public interest in mind. We have millions of policy holders in Hong Kong. They are members of the public. How do we allay the concerns of the intermediaries? Give us time to consider this issue. When we come to the relevant sections in later meetings, let's see whether we can come to any consensus. Yes, you have to consider the interests of millions of policy holders in Hong Kong. But it's not just about your understanding for the members of the industry. You also have to ensure that members of the industry can understand what you want. Mr. Yu Siwing. I was a member of the TIC. There are 3 of us and 2 from the industry, 1 layman. The lay member would like to ask industry members very often, why? And now we tell them that these are tricky things, please disregard them, this and that. But those cases that looked fishy, they could be perfectly honest. So I'm sure with more members from the industry, it would be conducive. Please don't think that we industry members will always favor intermediaries. Sometimes they will tell you some of the tricks in the industry. And I just said that the IIA can delegate its power to the Hong Kong MA. I'd like to know why this is the case. You may say that banks are rather complicated, and therefore the power to appoint inspectors and investigators can be delegated to the Hong Kong MA. Are you treating banks especially? And that's why you allow this delegation of powers and functions? Well, this is about having 2 regulators for one single industry. Yes, let me explain why we have this arrangement. Under the bill, the Hong Kong MA has powers to investigate and inspect all businesses being conducted by banks. And for insurance intermediary business, we believe this arrangement will make regulation more effective. That means there won't be 2 teams are checking on the intermediary business of banks, because a bank will provide the most suitable portfolio for a customer after is aware of the financial situation of a client. Such a service or such a recommendation is given in overall manner. And if we segregate insurance business out for the control of IIA, may be problematic. And so we believe it is conducive to ask Hong Kong MA to regulate this aspect of business. We are only giving the power of inspection and investigation to the Hong Kong MA when it comes to licensing, setting a code of ethics, and also imposing sanctions. They will be done by the IIA, not the Hong Kong MA. This is our policy decision. Well, Hong Kong MA can investigate according to its own powers. So there should be no delegation of power to the Hong Kong MA. You should not think that by delegating the investigation and inspection to the Hong Kong MA, you are happy and you are confident, because other industries may not be happy. Why is it that for banks, they allow the Hong Kong MA to investigate them, but not for other industries? Take the tourism industry as an example. We, tourist agencies, also sell travel insurance. I think this arrangement is unacceptable. No, we're not asking the industry itself to investigate banks, because the Hong Kong MA is the regulator of banks. Even with delegation of power, IIA can still exercise power to investigate and inspect the insurance business of banks. What we're saying is, given the way banks do business, we believe there can be synergy if we delegate the power to investigate and inspect to the Hong Kong MA. Anyway, the delegation can only happen with the approval of the CE. We're not saying that as soon as IIA is established, Hong Kong MA will be directly given that power. I suggest we allow this mechanism to operate for a while to see whether it is beneficial to the industry before making changes. Now, Mr. Yu, I'd like to ask whether Mr. Yu sees major problems. Mr. Yu, I think you can ask it the other way around. Now, if IIA and Hong Kong MA use different standards when investigating matters related to insurance business, will there be any problem? Because they are two different regulators, they have different ordinances to go by. So what will happen? Regarding the code of ethics, there is only one set by the IIA, and sanctions would only be imposed by IIA. The Hong Kong MA is only delegated the power to appoint inspectors and investigators, and sanctions will be meted out according to this bill. So there is no question of two sets of legislation. We're only asking Hong Kong MA to help in investigation and inspection. Mr. Sin Chung Kai, capital injection of $500 million. I have not decided whether I support this or not, but you also talk about a levy of 0.1%. Can you provide information on the following? For instance, using levies collected in the past 5 years to project the cash flow or financial situation in the coming 5 years to help me to decide whether this is supportable. You know, SFC is sitting on huge reserves after collecting levies for a few years, and we are close to urging the SFC to reduce the levy rate. Yes, such information can be provided. Give us a paper next time, okay? Mr. Chan Kim Po, thank you. Regarding delegation of powers to the Hong Kong MA, of course, Hong Kong MA has got a team doing similar things, and should there be a complaint, it has to investigate. The final decision is made by IIA. I'd like to know whether Hong Kong MA will charge IA any administrative fees. No. All right. This is number one. If Hong Kong MA has to investigate banks on behalf of IIA, you know, half of the policies are being sold by banks. That would mean extra cost, manpower cost on the part of Hong Kong MA. They have to employ more employees to do that. And the industry is concerned that an insurance company has to explain to two teams of regulators, because Hong Kong MA has the power to investigate all activities of banks, including insurance activities. They are worried that after Hong Kong MA's investigation, IA will do it again. So they are worried that they have to be investigated twice, and they have to explain to IIA the operation of banks. Okay. DS, please see whether you have any response to my concerns. Agreed. Yes, that's what I meant in my reply. Mr. Yu Siwing, now you told us that this delegation of function is subject to the approval of the Seeing Council. I'd like to know under what circumstances will you delegate powers to Hong Kong MA, or will it be done as soon as IIA is established? Chairman, as I said, and we thank the supplement from the Deputy Chairman, we believe that there is synergy. If IIA thinks fit in terms of resource deployment, it will propose to the Seeing Council to delegate powers to Hong Kong MA. I also like to hear the views of legislators. If you think that some guarantee is needed for the delegation of functions, then when the Seeing Council gives approval, it can do it with conditions. If legislators have views, we can ask the Seeing Council to consider these conditions. I'm sure you have your own thinking in drafting the bill. Please share with us your thinking. Our preliminary proposal is to delegate this power to the Hong Kong MA for synergy and efficiency, and the banks themselves do not have to face two regulators. Speakers off mic. You may say so. Well, we must have a mechanism. These are two separate regulators. We must have a mechanism because we're talking about delegation of functions. We must, or the decision must be approved by a very high level of government. So this is a procedure that has to be gone through. All right, if we don't have further questions on this part, can we go to the views of members of the public on this particular part and also the administration's response? 1713/1314(02) CBP 1 1713/1340(01). We have both the English and Chinese text. We have a Chinese text table. Do we have the English text? The Chinese text is tabled. All right, the Chinese text. Do you have it? DS? Do I have to explain the paper to you? Because the table is very clear, and I think we covered many of the issues in our discussion just now. Let's see if members have questions on this. All right. The administration's responses to views expressed by the public. Do we have any follow-up questions? Well, speakers off mic. DS. Since we still have time, I think you still have time to explain part 1 to us.
Chairman, the first one is about, Chairman, referring to the Chinese document. That is composition of the IA. That part we've discussed already. On page 3, the IAC, we've also covered that. Delegation authority, part 5, we've discussed that already. Accounting and financial arrangement. Our response is that the financial budget of the IA will need to be approved by the FS. I think that's the point raised by Mr. Sin Chung Kai, and you've promised to give us some supplementary information. So basically, we've also covered this. So I think in our early discussion, we've covered all the points raised here in this paper. I think the Deputy Chairman still has some questions regarding Part 1. Regarding 44C, you say that the bill doesn't stop members of the IAC for proposing agenda items. So they can propose an item which the committee can discuss at its following meeting. Is that a practice for the other advisory committees? That apparently is not the case for the MPFA. So I think the board will discuss whether or not items will be discussed at the meeting. Chairman, at any meeting, the members can propose an agenda item, and it's for the chairman to make that decision as to whether or not it will be put onto the agenda. Mr. Yu Siwing, thank you. With this establishment of the IIA, the government will be making an injection of $500 million. And the Consumer Council said that the IA is going to be financially autonomous in the future. I'm worried that the IA may then make the would impose additional charges on the industry. That's adding to the cost of the industry. Permanent Secretary, I think the simple answer is that we've engaged a consultant to conduct a study regarding the financial arrangement. We will certainly have more the detailed information for members later. Regarding the levy, we hope that the levy can pay for 70% of the operations of the IIA, 70%. And the license fees and the other charges for service will make up the remaining 30%. We will adopt a progressive approach. It's 0.04%, and then for the first year, and 0.01%, 0.1%, and we project that I will become financially autonomous by the 6th year. In 2013, the total premium is $290 million, and based on this amount, the levy should be able to meet our budget. If we start with 0.04% of the premium subject to a cap, then I think the cost on the part of the general public is minimal. So the biggest stakeholders in this case is the policyholders. So imposing a very marginal levy would be appropriate. What about the license fees and the other charges? Will that be frozen for some time? License fees for insurance intermediaries will be waived for 5 years. We'll still, charge insurance companies, of course. Any other questions? Mr. Kwok Wai Keung. Thank you. I still have a question regarding the IAC. We don't know what the final arrangements will be. So in future, is it the case that anyone who has any views will be invited to sit on the IAC? Then other than those from the industry, what about others who do not belong to the industry? Will there be other channels for them to express their views? So if there are restrictions, if there are people who cannot be appointed to the committee, then will the IAC, conduct more extensive, consultation if, there are people others who are not represented on the IAC? Regarding the composition of the IAC and the procedure for the IAC to conduct its meetings, it is stipulated that it must have 8 to 12 members. Among these members, there must be people with experience and expertise in the trade, and other professionals like those with actuarial experience. And the IAC can also set up other advisory committees and task force to liaise with the industry and other sectors of the community. We all know that the composition the composition of the insurance industry is rather complex. You have insurance companies, reinsurance companies, and so on. And for intermediaries, again, other than agents and brokers, we have multinational brokerage firms and SME insurance companies, and the regulatory concerns to them are different. So we therefore want to have this flexibility so that we can set up different committees. For the 2 statutory advisory committees, they would tend to deal with high-level policy matters. I've already also said that when the IAA have any new regulatory requirements, it must consult the industry. I know that the members are from 8 to 12, so there is a minimum and a ceiling on the size of its membership. It's going to be 8 to 12, appointed by the FS. Thank you. So I think those who came to the hearing was more than that. So for those people who will not be appointed to the advisory committee, what channels do they have? And you said that if necessary, the IA can set up new advisory committees, and there is no limit on the number of such other advisory committees, right? Now, if you look at Hong Kong and other jurisdictions, the practice of the regulator is that from time to time they will set up, specific or theme-based advisory committees, whereas the IAC are standing, advisory committees. But there could be ad hoc, advisory committees. Mr. Kwok, for example, is very concerned about the interests of the intermediaries. Even under the SRO, there is a standard agreement regarding the appointment of intermediaries, listing clearly the liabilities of both sides, that is the principal and the agent and the respective responsibilities. In future, of course, I cannot preclude the decision of the IIA, but the IA can contain setting up an advisory committee in respect of the appointment of the standard agreement governing the appointment of intermediaries and see whether or not it is fair. And then the insurance company and the intermediaries can sit down and have a dialogue. So in respect of specific matters, an advisory committee could be set up. Okay, I think it's time for us to wrap up our meeting today. For our next meeting, we will still be discussing the policy issues relating to this bill. I think we've asked many questions regarding Part 1. For the next meeting, we will go to Part 2 and even Part 3 of the policy areas. The next meeting is scheduled for the 14th of July at 4:30. But there's one problem. Our sitting on the 9th of July may be rather protracted, and we may even need to give way to the council meeting on the 14th. So the schedule for the meeting for the 14th may be rescheduled. And it's also very likely that it will be rescheduled. All right, we'll keep members informed should there be any rescheduling. All right, if there's no other business, the meeting is now adjourned. Thank you very much.